Welcome back to High School Backups Podcast. My name is Jake. I'm here with Kyle and Nick, and we are continuing our pre-draft offseason grades. We are doing the NFC East today, and I'm essentially just going to get right into it. Let's start with the Commanders. I'm going to give them a flat B. I like the Bieniemy hire. I think they got better on offense because of the Eric Bieniemy hire. Dan Snyder is looking to sell the team, so that's a big W. They did add Andrew Wiley, Jacoby Brissett, and Cody Barton. I think those are all decent upgrades to places where they needed to upgrade. Jacoby Brissett will end up being in a quarterback competition with Sam Howell, and depending on how Sam Howell has grown as a player, either of them might be starting. They did lose Cole Holcomb and Tyler Heineke. I like Heineke as a locker room guy. I never saw him as a long-term starter. He is a good backup, but they replaced him with Jacoby Brissett, who I think is as good in that position. They haven't really replaced Cole Holcomb. That is something I will say, but I think it's a B. I think it's a good offseason.
Talking about coaching up jumps here, so it's really just a similar thing to that, where it's like they've brought in a coach who is significantly better on offense to pair with a head coach who's very good on defense. So
Yes.
I think that's the big thing here. So
Yeah, I agree. B grade seems pretty fair for the Commanders. I think Taylor Heineke is going to be a bigger loss
He agreed.
than. I told you I don't disagree every time. I do. The only thing is I will disagree with this is I think Taylor Heineke will be a bigger loss only because of the locker room.
Yep.
I don't think it moves the needle drastically. Like I think Jacoby Brissett and Taylor Heineke are very similar quarterback, like talent wise. I do think Jacoby Brissett will come in and the locker room will love him. Like every locker room Jacoby Brissett has ever played in has loved him. But Jacoby Brissett is a great backup quarterback. He's a great transition quarterback too. When you're moving from your old quarterback to whatever your future quarterback will be, it's happened
Twice.
it's happened pretty frequently. So I do whoever the Commanders go with probably next year. I'm assuming will be their franchise guy. But for right now,
They're
great
looking
move
to
for-
go with Sam Howell. I mean, I don't know how great Sam Howell is going to be, but that is what it is.
Well, that's for this year, but probably next year they'll draft one of the.
I
guys
think
next
they're
year.
looking to run with Sam Howell. I'm not going to lie to you. I think
They're
really,
stupid.
I think they really hope Sam Howell is the guy.
He's not.
I'm gonna move into the Cowboys. I could be convinced to move off this, but I'm gonna go with a B minus. I know they traded for Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. I like those moves. I like the fact that they re-signed Leighton Vander Esch and Donovan Wilson. What I hate is that they fired Kellen Moore and hired Broughton Schottenheimer because I think Kellen Moore is one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. I also don't like the fact that they lost Connor McGovern and Dalton Schultz. And hear me out. I don't necessarily think cutting Zeke is a net positive for them like everybody else thinks it is. For a cap reasons, yeah, it's a net positive. But Zeke essentially gave them a short range back who could punch the ball in the red zone and get the 1 yard they need. I don't necessarily think Tony Pollard is that guy, and they're going to have to find a way to replace Zeke's production. Plus, Tony Pollard is a little bit injury prone, like he's been hurt the last 2 or 3 seasons. I like Tony Pollard. I think he's better than Zeke, but I don't necessarily think cutting Zeke is a net positive for the Cowboys.
yeah, I think it is. In fact, I think it's the biggest move on this list in a positive way.
Okay.
With the biggest negative being Kellen Moore. Zeke had become a little toxic. It was kind of a known thing that he had become a little toxic, and people were like kind of pissed off that he was getting paid for so much for doing so little. And then with Tony Pollard doing what he did last year, it was just like a final thing. So I think a B minus is okay. I might even put it down to a C plus with Kellen Moore, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think B minus is a fair grade for the Cowboys. I think the losses of Dalton Schultz and Zeke are pretty big, but not as big as losing Kellen Moore. Like that is really going to affect them. I do think their wide receiver room did get better though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So like I think that kind of like, kind of moves the needle a little bit back in the positive direction. And Stephon Gilmore too. Like
I think
they're
huge, actually.
which
I
one?
think that his veteran presence Brandon Cooks for one, but for Stephon Gilmore, I think his veteran presence is going to help some of the younger guys like
Yeah.
Trayvon Diggs and whatnot. Like that's going to be huge. Like defensive player of the year, like that's a big thing.
Stephon Gilmore isn't the player that he used to be, but his veteran presence is going to be big. Again, that's why we give him a B minus. I don't think they're worse today than they were at the end of the season. I do think they're slightly better, but we have to see. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer is not a bad coach in of himself. I just think Kellen Moore is that good of an offensive coordinator. We're going to move to the Eagles. Again, this is another B minus. They lost a ton of talent. I haven't seen them replenish it. They have kept some of their great veterans in the locker room, so their locker room should remain intact. They added Greedy Williams, Terrell Edmonds at safety to make up for the Marcus Epps loss primarily. They brought in Marcus Mariota, who I think can really teach Jalen Hurts some things about being a run-first quarterback in the NFL. I like Marcus Mariota as a stable backup. They kept Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, and James Bradbury, which I think are big W's for them. We didn't know whether Fletcher Cox was going to be back. We didn't know whether Jason Kelsey was going to retire, and we didn't know whether James Bradbury would be back. Did they also bring back Darius Slay? I remember that correctly.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yep. They did, however, lose Javon Hargrave, who is a big part of that defense. They lost Andre Dillard, who was their swing tackle, a guy who played when people were hurt. They lost Miles Sanders, which I think is a big loss. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which is a big loss. They lost Kaiser White, Marcus Epps, TJ Edwards, and backup quarterback Gardner Minshew. So, as much as they brought in, they lost a lot. So, a B minus. I mean, I could even be persuaded to put this to a C plus, but I err on the side that the Eagles front office knows what it's doing. B minus.
I don't think they got better. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say a C or C plus.
I was also going to say C or C plus because I also don't think they got better. I think the loss of Miles Sanders is going to hurt them dramatically. Like, granted, I know the Eagles are probably looking ahead for the draft because they have a couple decent round picks, but we can't take that into consideration right now because this is rankings before the draft happens. So based on that, I think their losses are. I think their losses outweigh their additions.
I'm willing to be moved to a C plus here.
I'm thinking C plus, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
And then we have the Giants.
I'll let you guys.
I'm not going to let Kyle go first here.
Yeah, we have the Giants. And the Giants, we actually rated an F because
because they suck.
No, Jake actually rated them at a B plus. I think that's a little too much credit. However, I don't think that's super. I actually think that the biggest issue for them, not only did they not get a wide receiver one at this point, they also paid Saquon, but they paid him for 1 year, which means they don't have him long term, which is a huge issue. He was their whole offense last year, it felt like, besides Daniel Jones at times. That's an issue. That is a big issue.
So, Kyle, you're right. The Giants got better. But the reason that this is a B plus instead of an A minus grade is because you overpaid DJ for the long term after one subpar, less than average season. I get it. I know your argument. Who is he going to throw to?
DJ before Saquon.
Like,
I'm not saying anything yet. Hold on, keep going.
Okay. I like the fact that they added Bobby Okereke. I do. I like that move. I think the Giants' defense got better when they added Bobby Okereke. I think they got better when they added Amani Oruwariye. I think they got better with those two moves. Paris Campbell and Jamison Crowder don't move the needle for me. I don't think they're game changers in that offense. If that is your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 headed into next year, along with Darren Waller, you added Darren Waller. I don't love that. And if you're going to pay DJ, you need to surround him with weapons, and they really haven't done that. They did only add Saquon for a year. They did pay him, so that's a bonus in your direction. Keeping Saquon is a bonus. But you also lost John Feliciano and Julian Love. Julian Love was a pretty big contributor to that defense last year. And so, B+. Like, you got better. You didn't get that much better.
Okay.
That sounds like a B minus to me, by the way, not a B plus. But that's fine.
So, when you say we got better but not that better, I do disagree. Only because I think the Paris Campbell and Jamison Crowder additions are going to be bigger. I don't think either one is going to be our wide receiver 1. I think the way that Isaiah Hodgins was playing last year, I honestly think they really like his style. And I think they're going to move him to be our wide receiver 1, at least to start the season. Because his addition helped get the Giants into the playoffs. Because between late October and November, the Giants were struggling badly because Saquon wasn't producing. DJ's weapons were all hurt. DJ had no one to throw the ball to, and we were losing games badly. Isaiah Hodgins comes in off of waivers, and we immediately start competing again. We almost beat the Vikings. We were able to at least compete with the Eagles one game.
Everybody almost beat the Vikings.
It's true.
That's fair, but I'm just
14
saying.
people?
But I'm just saying, we were able to almost beat them with no weapons except Isaiah Hodgins when we played them in December. We had no one to throw the ball to. DJ had no one to throw the ball to then. So I do think the added depth at wide receiver is huge because of how injury prone our wide receivers can be. That being said, we also brought in Darren Waller, who I don't think is going to really be the number one tight end. I think he's there more as I think he's going to be more of the pass catching tight end. But because Daniel Bellinger is not that great, but I think he's there to mostly be a teacher to Daniel Bellinger. Jake, what is with your face? But
I'm questioning that entire sentence.
I genuinely think Darren Waller is going to be there more of a teacher for Daniel Bellinger to learn from. Because like Darren Waller right now at this time in his career is very injury prone. Like,
oh my god. Okay.
So there's that. The bringing back Saquon, that to me is a negative, not because they brought him back, but because they didn't bring him back for a longer term.
Hey,
Okay.
Kyle. I would like to add something to your argument here.
Sure.
Paris Campbell in 4 NFL seasons has only played more than 7 games once.
That's why he's not going to be our wide receiver one.
Jamison Crowder in 7 NFL seasons has not had a full season in 4 of them.
Also, why he's not going to be our wide receiver one.
Sorry, let me rephrase my wording here. In the last 4 seasons, 4 seasons ago was the last time he played a full season. He only started 12 games. So both of that, you're saying that the issue is that your guys are injured. You're adding 2 more injury-prone guys.
Yeah, but we're adding
your problem is
depth.
the exact same.
It's
adding
not
depth to injuries is all injuries, but it doesn't change. Hey, you're gonna have different guys injured.
Let
at
me
different times.
finish my fucking argument. Jesus, holy shit!
Injury.
My God.
My lord, boys, calm down.
It's depth because they're not even going to be significant starters, Nick. That's why it's an improvement.
Bro.
It doesn't matter that they're injury prone because they're not going to play enough to matter. They're not going to
Who on the
be
roster right
starters.
now is better than them?
Anyway. Isaiah Hodgins is better. Sterling Shepard is better. Right, even Daniel Waller. What the?
Darren Waller?
Darren Waller is better than them. Those 2 guys' additions are literally going to be our wide receiver 3 and 4. Like, they're not that drastic. They're additions that help us depth in the long term. They're not additions to be our starters. But the biggest addition that you guys seem to have problems with is Daniel Jones coming back. And I'm looking at his contract because it is a lot. I'm not saying it's not. It isn't. It is a slight overpay. But I'm not caring about that now because I think when you look in the future, Daniel Jones' contract is going to be significantly cheaper than all the other quarterbacks who are to follow him with additions.
When he's a
so
backup.
I don't think it meant what.
When he's a
When
backup?
he's gonna be underpaid.
That's funny. Oh my lord.
Anyway, so
Oh man.
this.
All right, let's recap the NFC East. I'm done with that. Commanders get a B, Cowboys get a B minus. We moved the Eagles down to a C plus, and I think we're consensus on Giants at a B plus because Nick gave them a B minus, Kyle gave them an A, and I gave them a B plus. So
I'll leave him at B plus. Cal thinks he can unmute himself. I will unmute him finally.
On that note,
Yeah, I was looking, but hold on, no.
No, hey.
I said A minus. I said A minus.
Okay, I'll leave them at a B plus. It is what it is.
It's fine.
On that note, make sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Make sure to follow us on all our social medias, High School Backups on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And on that note, peace.